Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something I think a lot of you will find fascinating. The moment our house cats, Felis catus, decided we were sort of worth sticking around for, it's a story that really makes you rethink what domestication even means, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, because as our sources show, it's a surprising truth.
Yeah.
Cats never really needed us in the way dogs did.
Right, we just happened to create this niche, this opportunity, and they just walked right in and took advantage of it.
Exactly. Unlike the dog, which, humans actively shaped over thousands of years for partnership.
Hunting partners, herding companions, that kind of thing.
Precisely. The cat basically domesticated itself,
Hmm.
and it held on to that wild spirit, which, let's be honest, is part of their charm, even if it's maddening sometimes.
Yeah, definitely maddeningly charming.
And that difference, that asymmetry, that's really the scientific key here. Our sources trace this incredibly rapid and unique journey. So our mission today is really to unpack the specific environmental factors, maybe even genetic pressures, that let this solitary hunter shift from like the African savanna
Right into our living rooms, onto our sofas.
onto our sofas, yeah. And we're going to focus hard on the evidence, or sometimes the lack of evidence, especially in those very early years.
Hey, that context is crucial because the dog story starts, maybe 30,000 years ago,
Mhm.
and it's founded on partnership.
Whereas the cat's path, totally different. It's rooted in, utility, pure convenience, really. Started about 10,000 years ago. And frankly, the cats decided we were useful first.
Yeah.
Because of all the resources we were kind of clumsily gathering together.
Okay, so let's unpack that starting point then. Where exactly does the story begin? Who's the ancestor?
It all goes back to one species, the African wildcat, Felis libica. And the domestication clock, it really starts ticking right when humans began farming.
Agriculture, about 10,000 years ago, Fertile Crescent. That whole revolution.
That's the moment.
Yeah.
Because think about it. The Natufian culture, they start harvesting wild grains, storing them,
And suddenly they've created this brand new environment, a concentrated food source.
not just for humans. They basically built a massive unintended buffet for rodents. Stored grain attracts mice.
And mice attract cats.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Felis libica was just perfectly suited to exploit this new, let's call it an urban niche. They're naturally agile. They hunt at night or twilight.
Perfect for sneaking around a granary in the dark, catching mice.
Perfectly adapted.
Yeah.
So this wasn't, humans seeking out furry friends. It was more like a business deal.
Okay, like cat provides pest control.
Yep.
Human provides, maybe inadvertently, shelter and a steady supply of pests to control.
That's pretty much the relationship the sources describe.
Yeah.
And here's what really defines cat domestication, setting it apart. Only a tiny, tiny fraction of cats have ever been intentionally bred by people.
Really? Only a tiny fraction.
Yeah. And when they were, it was basically always for looks. Coat color, fur length, things like that. Nobody was breeding cats for jobs, like guarding the house or herding sheep.
So the cat really did just invite itself in, capitalized on the niche we made.
Yeah.
Self-domestication.
That's the core idea.
Oh.
Which leads to a really interesting puzzle.
Okay, what's that?
Well, if cats were so useful, so essential maybe for early farming, you'd expect to find tons of archaeological proof, right? Bones everywhere.
Yeah, you would. But the record is
Quiet. Almost silent for thousands of years. It's quite startling when you compare it to dogs.
so?
Okay, so we find bits and pieces. Fragments of cat bones, yes, in the Fertile Crescent, dating back maybe 7,000, 6,000 BCE near places like Jericho.
What?
But they are incredibly rare. And honestly, those bones could easily be from wildcats, maybe hunted for their pelts, not kept as companions. There's no sign of, connection.
And that's where the dog comparison really hits home, isn't it? Because by 8,000 BCE, so even earlier, dogs were being buried with their owners all over the place. Asia, Europe, North America.
Routinely buried alongside them. It shows a deep personal bond.
But for cats, nothing like that early on. When do we first see cat burials becoming common?
Not until Egypt, really, and much later, maybe around 1,000 BCE.
Yeah.
It strongly suggests that early farmers, they valued the service cats provided, but maybe not the cat itself, not personally.
So the relationship was purely transactional. Dogs were partners, cats were useful contractors.
That seems to be the picture, yeah.
Yeah.
Fundamentally different, not intimate. Now, there's one very famous, very early exception that hints at something more.
The Cyprus burial. Tell us about that one.
All right, the 9,500-year-old site in Cyprus, a cat was deliberately buried near a person. That's significant.
Okay, so maybe some affection there.
Possibly, but here's the crucial detail. The cat wasn't touching the human, not on the same grave plot, just nearby.
What do the sources make of that?
They describe it as suggesting an arm's-length relationship. Valued, maybe, but perhaps more like an exotic novelty, an imported curiosity, maybe a status symbol.
Not quite the integrated family member we think of today.
Not yet. That distance in the grave, it kind of perfectly symbolizes their early dynamic with us. Arm's length.
Fascinating. So that arm's length relationship, how did it finally close? When did the cat really move in?
For that, we need to jump forward quite a bit. Fast forward a few thousand years and look at Egypt.
Egypt. This is where the cat becomes, iconic.
Absolutely the turning point. By around 1250 BCE, cats are widespread in Egypt, commonplace. And again, the main driver, utility. Massive utility.
More than just mice this time.
Oh yeah, Egyptians had the usual house mice, sure, but also indigenous wild rodents, and crucially, the Nile rat, which was apparently incredibly destructive to grain stores.
So cats were basically essential workers, protecting the food supply that fueled the whole civilization.
You got it. They weren't just cute, they were performing a vital economic function. And this intense utility, it led pretty directly to veneration.
Ah, so usefulness becomes reverence.
Exactly. Cats became treasured companions and absolutely essential pest controllers. It's a dual role. And that reverence peaked in the later centuries of Egyptian civilization.
How so?
Well, for starters, killing a cat became illegal. There were complex rituals performed when a household cat died. They were elevated almost to a semi-divine status because their job was just so critical.
And we actually have proof of how good they were at that job, right? Like physical proof.
We do. It's quite remarkable. There's this 1,800-year-old burial found on the Red Sea coast. A large, young male cat.
Okay.
He'd been carefully wrapped and buried. And when they examined his stomach contents,
What did they find?
the bones of at least 5 black rats.
Ratus.
Wow. Caught red pod. Literally.
Literally. And the black rat was a relatively new pest, having spread from Asia. So this cat was on the front lines dealing with this new invasive species. Direct evidence of their value.
Incredible. And that respect, that veneration, it extended to how they treated them after death too, right?
Yeah.
Mummification. Oh, absolutely. Mummification wasn't just occasional. It was standard practice and often done really meticulously.
Like how meticulously?
Well, the sources describe techniques similar to human mummification. They'd remove the intestines, replace them with dry sand, then wrap the body carefully in layers of linen.
Wow.
And sometimes they were placed inside these amazing, custom-made, lifelike wooden caskets shaped like cats, sometimes even gilded with gold.
That's not just disposing of a body, that's serious reverence. An entire industry almost.
It really was. Ensuring their safe passage to the afterlife, it speaks volumes about their status.
Okay, so Egypt establishes the cat's place. How does it then spread from being this Egyptian treasure to, well, everywhere?
Right, the global expansion phase. That starts roughly 2,500 years ago as Greek and then Roman influence grows in the Mediterranean. Cat keeping spreads with them.
Even though the Egyptians supposedly tried to keep them exclusive, weren't there laws against exporting cats?
There were symbolic laws, yes. But trade routes are powerful things. The Phoenicians, the Greeks, they were master traders. Cats probably hitched rides on ships, controlling rodents on board.
Practical stowaways.
Pretty much. And cats being cats, they reproduce quickly. A few escapees here and there, and soon you have populations establishing all over the Mediterranean. Those export laws didn't stand a chance, really.
So as they spread, their appearance starts to change too, right? We start seeing genetic shifts away from their original wildcat look.
Exactly. Even though, importantly, their core behavior, those wild instincts, haven't altered nearly as much. But yes, the coat patterns change. The ancestor, Felis libica, has that striped mackerel tabby pattern. Great camouflage.
Okay, that's the baseline. What's the first big visible change we see evidence for?
The black mutation. Solid black cats, they're first described by the Greeks around the 6th century CE.
Which is interesting because solid black isn't great camouflage out in the wild, is it?
No, it's not. And that's the point. Genetically, what's happening is a change in something called the agouti gene. Think of agouti as the switch that creates bands of color on each hair, the pale tip, the dark base. That's what gives the wildcat its stripes and ticked look.
Camouflage.
Right. The black mutation basically breaks that switch so the hair is solid dark pigment all the way.
So the fact that black cats could thrive suggests that camouflage wasn't as crucial anymore because they were living around humans.
Precisely. That specific environmental pressure, the need to blend in perfectly, was lessened in villages and towns. Then much later, we get another major pattern change.
The blotched tabby. The one with the swirls, kind of like a marble cake pattern.
That's the one, sometimes called the classic tabby. That seems to have popped up much later, maybe originating in Britain during the late Middle Ages.
And this pattern, the blotched one, there's a genetic mystery there too, right?
There really is. See, the blotched pattern is genetically recessive to the striped pattern.
Meaning an individual needs 2 copies of the blotched gene to show the pattern. Otherwise, the dominant striped pattern takes over.
Exactly. Normally, you'd expect a recessive trait like that to stay relatively rare unless people are specifically breeding for it.
But that's not what happened in Britain.
Not at all. In Britain, and also in some places Britain colonized, like parts of North America and Australia, the blotched tabby dramatically outnumbers the original striped tabby, something like 2 to 1.
Whoa!
Yeah, estimates are that over 80% of cats in Britain actually carry at least 1 copy of this recessive blotched gene.
But why? If it's recessive and nobody was deliberately breeding for swirly patterns back in the Middle Ages,
Yeah,
how did it become so common?
that's the million-dollar question. It strongly suggests there must have been some other advantage linked to that gene, something completely unrelated to appearance.
Like maybe it affected temperament or disease resistance, something specific to the British environment back then.
Could be. Something made cats carrying that recessive gene more successful, better survivors or breeders, specifically in Britain. We don't know what it was. It remains a really fascinating puzzle in cat genetics.
Wow, so you have this rapid change in looks driven by these genetic quirks, but underneath it all,
You still have the legacy of that solitary wild ancestor. That incomplete transformation is key. their behavior today, it's still deeply rooted in that primal past.
So let's try and synthesize this, bring it all together. What does this history tell us?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that the cat became domestic, fundamentally, not because we chose them and bred them for tasks, or even initially for companionship. They moved in.
They filled a niche we created, pest control around our grain store.
Right. It was convenient for them, and that convenience allowed them to thrive alongside us, but always maintaining that delicate balance. Part companion, part independent, solitary hunter.
Okay, so reflecting on this whole 10,000-year journey, what does it mean for us now, for people like you and me, living with cats today?
Well, we've seen it's been a remarkably fast process, evolutionarily speaking. Their ancestor was solitary. They just haven't had the tens of thousands of years dogs had to evolve that.
That sort of optimistic enthusiasm for contact with their own kind, as the sources put it?
Exactly that phrase. Dogs generally enjoy other dogs. Cats often don't. Their wiring is still fundamentally geared towards being solitary, territorial hunters.
Which raises a really important question about modern life, doesn't it?
It really does. Given that deep-seated wild territorial legacy, and knowing that social conflict causes them immense stress, chronic anxiety, stress-related illnesses, can we really ask them to cope with the way many cats live today?
You mean like high-density living, forcing them indoors, often with other cats they didn't choose and maybe don't trust?
Yes, or even just expecting them to navigate overlapping outdoor territories with many neighboring cats without conflict. We put enormous pressure on them.
Pressure to be more sociable, more adaptable than their relatively recent evolutionary history has prepared them for.
Precisely. We need to think about the mismatch between their ancient instincts and the demands of our modern world. Are we asking too much?
A really powerful thought to end on. The cat chose us based on convenience, but maybe we still haven't fully grasped the terms of that ancient bargain. Thank you. This has been a truly fascinating deep dive.